Well, welcome back. I mean, I've done 2 weeks without you, so I know people are wondering, where is he?
Yeah, I'm around. I've been around.
Did you enjoy your time off?
Yeah, my time off. Yeah, well, it's been good, and you had good guests. So I think it's great for you to be able to, you know, talk to a plethora of people.
Mm-hmm. It's nice sometimes just doing girl talks with people too. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
I feel like my whole business life I've worked with men.
yeah.
And so until Jackie, I really did not get to hang around girls that often because I
Mm,
was always working around men. And so, like, it's always nice. It's refreshing.
yeah.
That's what I should say.
That's a different dynamic.
It's a totally different dynamic.
Yeah,
But I am glad to have you back.
you guys probably laugh more.
We definitely laugh
Yeah,
more.
I mean, ours are very serious business.
It is serious, but away from this, we do laugh a lot. You have to admit.
No, we do.
Yeah.
I always, when I come on this program, I always feel like a responsibility,
Mhm.
that the stuff we're talking about is so meaningful
Right.
and can change people's lives that I carry a big responsibility of, carrying the message forward.
Yeah.
So it's good that you can get
I
out.
call that stress, by the way.
No, it's not stress.
Oh, okay.
It's not stress. It's anointing.
Okay.
And you have to be respectful of anointing and,
Right.
and carry it. But we still have some laughs on here.
Totally.
So, all right, good.
Well, I thought it would be wise of us to talk today about a topic that I know is on a lot of people's minds, just with where we are in this country, where we
Mhm.
are with the economy. We see what's going on in Israel. There's so much uncertainty.
Mm.
And so even though, in times like this, I think it's easy just to be like, nothing else matters. Like, who cares where we are financially? Who cares? It's so much bigger than that.
Mm.
I still want to speak to those who are like, look, in lieu of everything we're seeing happening, how can we really make sure that we're not only walking in our purpose, but our purpose is actually leading to our prosperity?
That's good.
And so what I mean by that is what are we doing today that's setting us up to prosper in the future?
Mhm.
And I know that topic is very sensitive to you because we've had these conversations just in the last few years. We've done so many different things.
Right.
But at the end of the day, if someone says, what are you about? Like,
Mhm.
who are you and what do you love to do?
Mhm.
What would you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that my passion is real estate,
Mm-hmm.
and it's what's on my mind most of the time as it relates to my giftings and my secular work.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I think about when I have some downtime to have a cup of coffee or sit and just relax. I'm looking at listings. I'm looking at real estate all over the world, as you well know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the thing I do when I don't have to be doing anything, and that's always a key to me. That's probably a good sign. It's part of my purpose.
Got it. So it's the thing that you do when you have free time to
Yeah.
do anything.
It's the
how
thing
are
I
you-
do when I don't have to do anything, but I choose to do that.
But share with me and to our listeners how you're finding that is building wealth for you for future. Because, I think it's amazing that you've identified it. I couldn't agree more with you. I think that absolutely is your passion.
Mhm.
But I think for some people, and I know even for myself, it took me a while to really zone in on what is it that I'm really about? Just
Yeah.
Amber. Strip away everything else because I've had my hands in so many things.
Mhm.
But what is Amber about? And then how am I going to use that? Obviously for kingdom-minded purpose, but more so, how am I going to use that to build prosperity for the future for our
Right.
family?
Yeah, you mentioned something earlier, and I think it's good to touch on that. We are in very turbulent times, unprecedented, honestly, in every way, shape, and form, politically, geopolitically. It's coming out of the pandemic. I mean, you name it. But I don't think that any of us should lose sight of the fact that our job hasn't changed.
Mm-hmm.
Our job hasn't changed, and that's to be about the Father's business, to be kingdom builders, right? And so what does that mean? That means we have to steward resources. And so when we're talking about prosperity, it's just not about the bling. It's not about getting the new shiny thing.
Right.
This is about stewarding resources that are in this earth to benefit and build the kingdom.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, okay, how do I do that? That's great, Ryan. Thanks for telling me. I already knew that, but how do I do it?
Right.
And the world throws all these ideas for how to build prosperity at us. I mean, everything from, the stock market and IRAs, 401ks, real estate, gold and silver, rare coins, collectibles, like all of these different ways. And I'm a firm believer that prosperity lives inside of every single person within their purpose. And so for me, I started thinking my purpose was in financial markets, stocks and bonds. I thought that's where I belonged.
And that's probably why you went into the financial planner. Like that's what you did for a while.
I mean, I got my Series 7. I got my licensing for variable annuities and life insurance, and opened an Edward Jones shop here on Anna Maria Island. And I realized pretty quickly, I'm like, I don't think this is it. And it lives somewhere in watching the volatility in the markets and really having no control over it. Now, I still believe that, equities, stocks, have a place in everyone's portfolio.
Right.
But I realized it wasn't my first passion. And I've had many financial advisors tell me, Ryan, you might be overweighted in real estate, but there's a reason for that. It's what I believe in. It's what I love. I like to walk on my investment. I like to grow food. I like to raise cows. And for me, something tangible about that, I recognize there was a connection with why I chose that, because it actually improves my life.
Yeah.
It makes me a better human.
Well, and it builds wealth.
And over time, it builds wealth.
Right.
So,
so that is, would you say that's your biggest wealth building strategy overall? Or is there a certain percentage of your portfolio that you like to see in that because it's your purpose, you love it, you believe in it, you've seen it work for you, but you still stay diversified in other areas, right?
Yeah. I mean, for us personally, real estate is our number one holding, it's what we believe in the most, but that's not going to be the same for everyone.
Right.
I was talking to a guy the other day that he loves cars and loves fixing cars. And it's like, well, guess what? Classic cars and collectibles are a real thing. And so somebody that's what they find themselves doing when they don't have to do anything else is tinkering with cars and looking at classic cars online could say, you know what? I can build a retirement nest egg with my passion for collectible cars. And I think that's a light that needs to be shined on all of us and say, it doesn't have to be the stock market. It doesn't have to be the 401k. It doesn't have to be what they have always told us it needs to be. I believe that true kingdom builders need to leverage the giftings inside of us in order to build prosperity.
Right.
There's a link there and there's a connection. And, that for most people, I think, probably is not the stock market. It could be houses. It could be cars. I mean, you probably can think of other things that you love.
I do love, I love cars. I like vintage cars. I'm a big Land Rover fanatic, as you know.
Yes.
And so, I mean, I know that's probably not everyone's specialty. And I think because I grew up with a dad who owned a shop and, was a mechanic. And so I came to love really rustic cars. So Defenders are my thing. But I also think it's a great investment because they hold their value. They look great to drive in. I feel good in them. So of course it's a great investment because of that. But it's a nice trade-off to be able to enjoy those things that you love and at the same time know they're a great investment to put money in that's not as volatile as the stock market. And it's a tangible item that I have.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not shutting down the stock market as an avenue, but I do know that we are entering into a time of volatility. The full history of the market shows that over time, if you don't try to time the market, if you buy and hold companies you believe in, that over time, the system, the market makers need the valuations on these stocks to go up over time because they own them too.
Right.
So over time, it's going to work out fine.
Right.
The hard part is the psychological battle in the downturns to stay the course. And so there is a place for that. But if you were to give me $100,000 and said, Ryan, do you personally want to put this in the stock market or put this into real estate? I'll take real estate every single time because it's what I'm passionate about. It's what I believe in. And there's that connection. I was talking to another guy the other day. Okay, he calls me and he says, my IRA is underperforming, my individual retirement account. It's underperforming. And I'm thinking about selling out. And at first I was, talking to him about staying the course and diversification. But it was interesting where the conversation went. It ended up going to more of like a sermon on purpose. And this guy is one of the best carpenters and handy individuals I've ever seen.
I agree with you because I know who you're talking about. The best.
Everything he touches turns to gold. It's
beautiful.
And I'm like, Brian, I'm like, why aren't you leveraging this gifting you have in order to build your retirement instead of, trusting it in the hands of corporate executives? You can leverage your retirement assets to buy homes, fix them up, sell them. And, I happen to believe that if he's in his giftings and functioning like that, he's going to end up outperforming the stock market 10x over the course of the next 20, 30 years because it's his gifting. It's what he understands. He goes, it's true. I don't really understand the stock market, and I've been ripped off by a pension fund. And he started kind of like saying, why am I so convicted to be in the stock market when I have this other skill that I can leverage? And that was a breakthrough moment for me. I'm like, you know what? This purpose and prosperity thing is intricately connected.
But I think that we go there because whoever they is, we're still trying to figure that out.
Still trying to figure out who is they.
They say we should be diversified and we should be investing in the stock market. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of people hesitate. One, because they feel like they don't have enough money to invest in the stock market. Two, it's because they don't fully understand how it works and functions. And I think something you said, which is, yes, it's going to be volatile, but the truth is it's always going to go up over time if you set it. Now, I'm a little different than you. I am a set it and forget it kind of person. I don't want to see it. I don't want to look at it every day. I trust people that we've put in place versus whereas you are very much, you see it. You're in it every day, probably a little more than me. I think for most females, they'd probably find that it's a little too stressful. It's too much of a roller coaster. I can handle a bunch of other stress. But watching that for me, it is stressful. So what would you say to those people that are like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't want to lose money. Like, do they just reach out? Do they set up a brokerage account online? How do they even get in the game, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a good point. The reality is there are so many professionals out there that are really, really good at helping individuals steward their resources.
I know, but my problem has always been that most of those people only want to deal with high net worth people.
And then there's others that want to start with people that have never made $1 in their life and get them started on a dollar cost averaging plan where you can set aside X number of dollars per month. Maybe it's $100, maybe it's $200. It's called DCA or dollar cost averaging. And what you're doing is you're averaging into the market monthly. You don't have to have a big nest egg to start. There are firms like Edward Jones that are very, it's a Midwestern firm. It's very conservative. They're all about face-to-face business. There's fun companies like Fidelity where you can open accounts and there's no charges. And so there is a very low entry point, and there's people that can help newcomers to the market to navigate it and learn, right? You have to start somewhere. So it's all about starting.
That's right.
Most people probably start with some type of retirement account and then transition into more of like, their savings or cash account that they're investing. But I would encourage anyone as a starting place, there is one advantage to the stock market, and that is that it's liquid any given day. And that's one thing that people love about it. Any given day, it's a click of a button away from converting shares of a company to cash. As we know, real estate is not quite that liquid. And there's a process. I can decide today I want to liquidate my asset and convert it to cash, but it can take time. So there's downsides to every asset class.
Totally. But I actually like it. And I'll tell you why. when we would do the credit card company and we would talk with people who are like, oh, what if I want to use my cards again? And we would say, you know what, freeze them in the freezer, like fill it with water, put your cards in there. And by the time it thaws out, you've had plenty of time to determine if that purchase is really necessary or if you're splurging and should not use your credit card. And I think that's the same with investments. I think that when it's in the stock market and it's an easy click of the button and I can get my money out, you're a lot more volatile with your spending. Whereas if it's in real estate, you know what? You're going to think long and hard. It's going to give you time to really think about what you're going to allocate that money to should you sell the property, right?
Yeah.
And there's huge tax, what do you call that? To where you have to pay taxes.
Yeah.
Tax liabilities on property sold. So it really makes you think twice before cashing in all your chips on your investment.
Yeah, that's a good point. And actually, I want to harken back to something you said about watching it every day versus set it and forget it. And to me, there is a difference between an investor and a trader. And trading is very hard. You've got to be right twice. You've got to be right when you buy the security, and you have to be right when you sell the security, or you don't make any money.
Right.
When you're an investor, you buy shares of companies that you really believe in. You believe in them. You have a thesis.
Like Peloton.
Like Peloton for you. Like Costco. Let's say I'm just a compulsive Costco shopper, and I'm like, I believe in this company. I believe in what they do. A while back, I was like Chewy with the drop shipped dog food.
Right.
I'm like, this is brilliant. It's brilliant. And of course, Amazon's going to buy them one day.
Right.
So why wouldn't I invest in this? And I believed in the thesis. So what's important about believing in the company you're investing in is if there is a downturn, you don't stress out. You say, well, I believe in the long-term vision of this company. I believe in what they're doing. That's an investor. That's what makes it easy to set it and forget it. And I have buckets. I've got buckets of money that I never look at. That's the long term. I don't even look at it. I don't pay attention to what happens day to day. And then I have buckets that I trade. And I am an active trader, and I am trying to time in and out. And, those are the things I'm actively involved in. But, real estate's always the first love, though.
Yeah, but that's important. What you just said is that to be an investor, you can actually look and partner up with companies that you believe in. One, it makes it fun.
Yeah.
And so then even when it does have a downturn, Peloton's a perfect example. It's been up and down, very volatile, but guess what? I still believe in it.
Yeah.
I'm on it every day. I love it. So as long as I'm in the game with my money too.
Yeah.
It's like put your money where your mouth is, so to speak, right?
Yeah. And it's nice to walk in, to get into your Tesla and say, I own part of this company, or to walk into a Marriott and say, I'm an owner of Marriott. I believe in it.
Right.
I'm investing in. My dollars are behind them.
Right.
You have some ownership hype.
So one of the questions that I know people are asking themselves, and I know we went through this process, is what is it that I'm passionate about? And sometimes it's hard to land on what that is. And it almost takes someone else to sit with you or asking. One of the tips that I wrote down that I really encourage people to do is ask 10 people who are around you the most. Like, what makes up Ryan? And for me, what is Amber? Like, strip away everything. If you didn't know anything I did, what could you say about me personally that could maybe steer me in the right direction to make sure I'm walking in my purpose and my giftings? And so for me, I love helping. Like, surprisingly, I'm an 8 on the Enneagram. They're not typically helpers. But when I say help, I should say I like solving problems.
Right.
Like, I don't care what the problem is. I love solving problems. And so I know that if I'm solving a problem or I'm helping, then that is my purpose and gifting.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like my gifting is. And if I'm doing that and I'm walking in that, then I know the prosperity will come.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So it's very similar to your real estate. The problem is it's so broad, right?
Yeah.
Like solving problems.
Yeah. And lots of people are happy for you to solve their problems.
Totally. But monetizing it. And so I think it's knowing when and how to monetize your gifting.
Yeah.
That people struggle with because they do want to help. And like me, I love helping people. But I also love monetizing because I think that everybody knows what I know, but it's not true. And people being able to identify what it is that they have in them that they can set up to monetize and build wealth for future or invest in those things that are in alignment with their gifting.
Absolutely.
For their purpose.
Yeah. I've said it before in other podcasts, but that seed is in each and every one of us. That seed, that purpose, is in each and every one of us. And for me, like I said, I've been all over the place with hobbies and interest and asset classes. I mean, I've done everything from rare coins and cryptocurrency and real estate and gas stations and
art. Do you remember that?
Art. Literally, I don't know that there's an asset class I haven't delved into as a wealth building tool. But every single time, I'll never forget what this man Cactus said to me. He's an oil man. And
was his name really Cactus?
Cactus, yeah. That's not his real name, but that's his nickname.
Okay.
They all have nicknames,
Okay.
He's a good Texas boy. And we were having lunch, and I was talking to him about my idea of buying gas stations. And he looked at me and he said, well, what do you know about gas stations? And I said, well, I don't know the first thing about gas stations, but these things look like really profitable vehicles. You're getting agitated.
I hate this conversation.
It's okay. You're going through a healing right now.
I will take responsibility for also not knowing anything and being suckered into this whole gas station game.
So he told me, Ryan, if you don't know about something and you're not passionate about something, you have no business investing your money in it.
Great advice.
Great advice. I ignored him completely.
And you didn't share it with me, clearly.
I think I did.
No,
but,
I don't think you did.
Anyway, that has been a mantra, though, ever since that I've used. If I don't understand it and I'm not passionate about it, then why am I placing my money into that particular vertical? Mm-hmm. So I have a responsibility either to learn about it or become passionate about it or just stay away from it and stay in my lane.
Right.
Stay in my lane. I have a lane. It's clear.
Yep.
God's wired me in a certain way. So that's what I would encourage people to do is, what is your lane? Mm-hmm. What do you spend your time doing when you don't have to be doing anything? I can almost guarantee you there is a path to prosperity in that particular purpose.
Well, and there's so much teaching and training online for people now too, that before you venture into a certain area, do your due diligence. Take a course, read about it, follow people who are doing it, and make sure they're credible with the advice that you're getting from them before you go into investing into something that could have huge ramifications if it failed.
Absolutely.
One more thing I want to touch on, just because I know that we're getting ready to enter the holidays, and with the economy as volatile as it is, and you're watching globally, we have over $235 trillion worth of debt, which is an all-time high, by the way.
That's crazy.
Okay? So when they're looking at that and they're trying to plan financially for walking into the holidays, how can they be able to set aside enough money so they're not accruing more debt? And one of the things that I have been researching is really a structured way to look at your finances. Mm-hmm. So I want to share with you something that I think is a great strategy.
Okay.
And it's actually Richard Jenkins, who was MSN Money. He was a former editor-in-chief there. And he set up what he refers to as the 60% solution. Okay. And that is that you have this 40% that's divided into investment buckets. But 60% of your income is what you should be living on: food, living expenses, and taxes. Okay? So if you look at what you're bringing in monthly for your household, 60% of it should go towards food,
housing,
and taxes. The other 40% should be broken down in the structure, and I'd love to know your opinion on this. So he suggests that 10% of it should be set aside for retirement.
Okay.
So what would that be considered, like your 401k?
401k, IRA, any type of tax-deferred investment vehicle.
Okay. Another 10% should be long-term savings. Mm-hmm. What would you categorize under long-term savings?
Long-term savings is readily accessible, generally in a savings account. It really could be invested in anything, but it is a savings account, but it's a cash account. It's probably not in any type of tax shelter.
Got it. Then 10% in short-term savings, what I would call an emergency fund, right? Wouldn't you? Something that's accessible, a little easier to get a hold of.
That could be in a savings account where your longer-term savings could be in stocks or mutual funds, something that there's a little more risk, but there's a higher potential for yield.
And then the last 10% would be what they refer to as fun money. And that is just, to me, Christmas money, giftings. So if you're looking at your income and what you're bringing in on a weekly basis, which in turn will result with your monthly income, look at it from the 60% solution model and allocate 60%, and the other 40 start to invest even at a very young age, right? So it's like taking it from your purpose, turning it into prosperity, then using the wealth and the money to invest in your future with a 60% solution approach.
And I like that. And it begs a question for those that are listening that say, my expenses for my housing, my food, my taxes is above 60% already. And so what that requires is a reshuffling of the deck, which means, okay, I'm overspending my income to live within this model, which means I have two solutions. I either need to reduce my expenses
or make more money.
There's only two ways out of the hole. The problem with reducing expenses, you can only reduce them so far, where increasing revenue is infinite.
Right.
The sky is the limit on how much you can make.
That's right.
Any human being, and we need to wrap our head around that. We need to wrap our head around, we have authority over this world. We have authority over this earth. And so we need to walk in a thought that the revenue stream potential is infinite.
Right.
If we find our lane.
Right. And I know so many people, we're not in the days of like our great-grandparents to where they had one job. Like, you have access with everything that's made available to bring in multiple streams of revenue so that you're not one-dimensional. You have multiple streams that will allow you to live a rich life, but also take advantage of investment opportunities to set up your future.
Yeah.
And it compounds if you're walking in your purpose and your gifting.
Yeah. And to your point, with trillions globally in debt, that's the first area to attack. Unsecured debt, that's why we're so bullish on attacking credit card debt, is because it's dead weight.
That's right.
It's truly dead weight. And these guys are loan sharks.
Yeah, they are loan sharks.
And the fact is, that's the head of the snake you got to cut off first, is get the credit card debt out of there. That'll reduce expenses. And it's almost like hitting a reset button. To be in debt is to be in slavery.
Well, I always refer to it as you immediately flip your script once you eliminate the debt.
Yeah.
Because you free up so much cash instantaneously that you can now invest in building wealth.
Exactly.
So the return on investment of just paying off your debt, that's actually a full-time job in and of itself. Because once you flip it, it starts to work for you rather than against you.
Yeah. Yeah. And believe in miracles.
Yeah.
Believe in miracles,
Well, yeah. You know what I always say?
You got to believe to receive.
That's right. If you believe, you will receive.
That's it.
We're living proof of that.
And you have to believe.
Yeah.
Believe in a miracle with your debt.
Right.
Believe in it. Believe that will happen.
Totally.
And I know a lot of things we talk about seem like a lot of out of people's reach. They are not out of their reach. They've just got to believe and put a plan in place and then watch the miracle unfold.
That's really good. So I think that we have given a lot of great information to these people. I'm so excited to hear people who will have listened to this. And if you want to, set up a clarity call with us, whether it's for your debt, to start to flip your script, or even if you're in a position to where you're like, look, I've got some extra money, I want to invest.
Yeah.
We actually have a call that we do for free that actually goes through the housing opportunities and things that we have available for people to participate in to build wealth.
The real estate rundown.
Real estate rundown. Yeah. So definitely set up a clarity call, reducemydebts.com. You can find all our future and previous podcasts there also.
Yep.
And thanks so much for sharing all that today. I learned a little bit.
Thank you.
Yep.